For Mercedes GLA customers, EQ Power means the addition of the plug-in hybrid technology that features in this clever GLA250e variant. It can travel up to 37 WLTP rated miles on a single charge that can be completed from 10 to 100% in just an hour and 45 minutes from a 7.4 kilowatt garage wall box. And the 1.33 litre petrol engine and 75 kilowatt electric motor produce a sprightly 218 horsepower total output, yet a super low 32 grams per kilometre CO2 reading. This is a car that's eco-conscious as well as fashion-conscious. If you can afford it, this Mercedes is easy to like.
This plug-in petrol hybrid model uses the PHEV powertrain, which is also fitted in Mercedes A, B and CLA ranges. With this, the 163 horsepower version of the volume 1.3 litre petrol unit is here paired with the 8-speed Mercedes auto transmission, and it's mated to a 75 kilowatt electric motor powered by a 15.6 kilowatt hour lithium-ion battery. That's enough to produce a very healthy 218 horsepower system output with a gutsy 450 newton meters of torque, and that's enough to dispatch 62 in 7.1 seconds on the way to 136 miles an hour if you don't care about prolonging your potential driving range, and that's WLTP rated at a very class competitive 37 miles. This is progress that you can monitor via a neat selectable energy flow screen that's available from the Centre Dash Monitor's EQ menu, which shows you in real time what's being driven by what. This car has a pleasing preference for battery-powered motoring, and there's an extra electric dynamic select drive mode for use if, once you get going, you want to prevent the combustion engine cutting in. In theory, you can stay in battery drive all the way up to 87 miles an hour. Alternatively, an electric in city option allows you to save battery charge for urban driving that you might want to do later on in your trip. Either way, you can maximise battery range with careful use of these steering wheel paddle shifters there when you're in electric mode, not to switch ratios but to vary levels of brake energy recuperation. Although it's easier just to pull hard on either one, this then selects a radar-based D-Auto recuperation program, and that basically does it all for you. A couple of minor dynamic differences separate the 250e model's drive experience from the more conventional GLAs. One isn't much of an issue: the 8G DCT auto gearbox's greater preference to continually shift up to longer ratios in pursuit of better economy. The other might be, though, a noticeable degeneration in ride quality, which you feel over really poor surfaces and speed humps. That's brought on by an extra 150 kilos of battery weight and by the engineering necessity of switching this plug-in model to a less sophisticated torsion beam rear suspension setup. Visual differentiators as to this variant's plug-in status are limited to subtle EQ power labelling on the front wings and the 250e badging at the back. Otherwise, unless you happen to notice the extra EV charging flap on the driver's side, you'd think this was any other GLA. Inside, you're greeted by an EQ branded startup screen in the instrument cluster. Plus, there's an additional EQ menu for the Centre Dash infotainment monitor with charging options, consumption, energy flow, vehicle and engine sections. Otherwise, though, the cabin is pretty much exactly as it would be on any mainstream conventionally engined GLA. That means it really does feel very premium in here indeed, with man-made leather-stitched seats, glossy piano black centre console that flows up into the dash, and curious tubular silver door grab handles. Plus, of course, as usual with a modern compact Mercedes, there's the usual high-tech cabin screen fest on show. On a GLA250e, this touchscreen media display in the centre of the dash, that will always be of the largest 10.25-inch size, but depending on spec, this instrument cluster monitor will either be 7 inches, as here, or 10.25 inches. This whole MBUX twin screen setup can be activated by prodding on the monitors, by various neat touchpads, or by the provided Hey Mercedes voice activated functionality. In the back, the PHEV system seems to have brought no discernible compromises in the accommodation provided for passengers. That's because, cleverly, the fuel tank has been integrated into the space around the axle installation, and that creates additional room beneath the rear bench for the high voltage battery. It all means that, as with an ordinary GLA, legroom is pretty generous by class standards. Where the plug-in tech usually does compromise things a bit is when it comes to trunk space, but Mercedes designers say they've worked hard to ensure that battery boot intrusion is minimal. For this model, they've created a special exhaust system layout which ends in a centrally positioned outlet under the vehicle floor, with the rear silencer housed in the transmission tunnel. Which all sounds promising, but when the standard EasyPack powered tailgate rises, you're still faced with a 50-litre reduction over the boot capacity of a conventional GLA. There's 385 litres of capacity on offer. Overall, most customers should be able to live with what's available here, though. Something like a folded baby buggy should easily fit, and there is a 40-20-40 split folding seat back, which, when it's flattened, can free up as much as 1,010 litres of space up to window level, or up to 1,385 litres if you load to the roof. The era of plug-in hybrid technology may be relatively short-lived. Much of Europe plans to ban hybrid engines by 2035, but right here, right now, it's the approach to electrification that makes most sense for an awful lot of buyers. But upfront costs need to be driven down if wider consumer uptake on PHEV models like this one is to be realised. If you don't mind paying the premium though, with a GLA250e, you'll get a premium package in return.